Hey everyone, it is crazy ACOTAR Theory time again, and I have this really amazing and really complex theory for you guys. And I know I only have 3 minutes, so I'm going to jump right into it. Try to stay with me because I have notes and some thoughts are in parentheses. They're kind of thoughts based off thoughts, but try to stay with me. Alright, so the first theory. We know that there's this sort of archway in the Illyrian Mountains. If I recall, I believe not only it's mentioned in ACOTAR, but I believe someone said it was mentioned in Crescent City. I haven't read Crescent City yet, so I'm not sure if that's true or not. Don't quote me on that. But I'm thinking that might be the archway between the two worlds, between Prythian and the Crescent City world. And I was remembering in ACOTAR how there was this mural in Tamlin's gallery of all of Prythian, and then there was a separate portion of that mural that was Ramiel. And in the mural of Ramiel, there are eyes that are peeking through the peaks of the mountain. And I think that that is a huge hint that the portal to the other world is in the Illyrian Mountains, that archway that we're talked about. I'm also thinking that that's how Bryaxis escaped Valaris after the war, because they left and then they just haven't been seen again. And of course Cassian's like, where's this thing, you know? And I think it escaped Prythian. I think it escaped the ACOTAR world. But leading into my next theory, because it's loosely based on that, who painted the mural in Tamlin's gallery? We know Tamlin doesn't paint. He's an English person. He does poetry. He doesn't paint. So my personal guess, is that it was Rhys's sister. I'm going to call her Nova, just for this video, because it's a lot easier. So I'm guessing that it's Rhys's sister, Nova. And I'm thinking that she did this mural when she was in love with Tamlin back in the day. I'm thinking they were lovers, and she gifted him the starlight pool, and they were sneaking around behind their father's backs, and which is why when Feyre eventually came along, that room hadn't been touched. The mural was covered and like dusty because he couldn't face looking at reminders of her, but he encouraged Feyre to paint, kind of like nostalgia of when his other lover was there. But I'm thinking that Rhys's sister, or Nova, was the missing piece to combining the two worlds, Prythian and the Crescent City world. I'm thinking that she found the archway and the portal, or found out about it. Maybe she was a seer, like Elaine, and then she went back to the Spring Court, and her and Tamlin were messing around, and she drew that mural in the gallery. But before she could tell anyone her theories, I'm thinking Tamlin made her leave Prythian for her own safety. And I'm going to get back to that. But this just reminds me of Feyre, because she was a painter, she was a forbidden lover. Tamlin tried to send her away to save her despite the risk to himself during Amarantha's reign. That leads me to my third theory, a continuation on this. I'm thinking that Rhys's sister, Tamlin's lover, Nova, I'm going to call her, is actually Briar, the human that they saved from the Highburn camp. I'm thinking that, just hear me out. So what if Tamlin knew that his father was going to play the death card on Rhys's family? What if he knew that, like, one of his brothers found out about them being lovers and was going to tell his father about the love affair with the enemy's daughter? Then Tamlin would have made sure that when he was forced to give his father the location, that I believe he would probably glamour, like, 2 Illyrian brutes that were in the camp that probably mistreated their women into looking like Rhys's sister and her mother. And I mean, when his father, like, cut off their heads and cut off their wings and everything, they still would have been glamoured, so the heads still would have been glamoured when they were sent to Rhys's father. And they were sent to Rhys's father. Rhys never saw them. He only made mention that they were sent, and so we don't have direct proof of confirming that it was his mother and his sister. But I'm guessing that Tamlin had convinced her to go into hiding in the mortal lands. And he would have needed her to be glamoured, obviously, in order to survive there as a fae. She would have to look like a mortal. And we don't have his point of view of what happened when Rhys's family died. Like, we have Rhys's best guess because he wasn't there. And we don't have Tamlin's point of view of what happened, even though he begged Rhys for forgiveness and was crying, but we don't really know why. But I think it's possible that his sister glamoured herself to look like a human and took Tamlin's advice and hid in the mortal lands to evade their father's feud, because Tamlin knew that he was going to try to kill her. And then she was there, and then shortly after there was that whole war, and then the treaty, and then the wall went up, so then she was stuck in the mortal lands, and she couldn't get back to Prythian and back to Tamlin. When the wall was torn down, she could finally get back home, but because she was glamoured as a human, and I also think she was the founder of the Children of the Blessed, because she was fae, pretending to be mortal in the human lands, teaching them that the fae were actually kind and they could be good people. I think that when the wall came down and she was glamoured as a child of the blessed, that Hybern captured all of them, including her. I have a hard time believing that the character of Briar is actually human, because it says in the wiki that she's super resilient. She would have been in a lot of pain having to walk with burns and lashings. She wouldn't be walking and running normally like it said in the wiki. It said that she could get around fine despite her burns and lashings, and even when Azrael and Feyre were too weak to, walk around with theirs. And we're supposed to believe she's fully human, but she was less affected by her wounds than the two powerful fae that helped save her. That never made sense to me. So I think when Tamlin went undercover in Hybern and saw her again, he wouldn't have risked letting anybody know, because their whole plan to begin with was to save her life by sending her to the mortal lands. So he wouldn't have let anybody know that she was Rhys's sister, that she was his lover, that she's glamoured into being this human. And going back to my theory that Rhys's sister, Tamlin's lover, could have been a seer, I believe that, and my belief that Hybern used the Children of the Blessed to test the cauldron, I believed Briar was dunked into the cauldron, but because she's really Rhys's sister and really fae, it took a power from her. And because she was actually fae, not human, and the cauldron doesn't like people tricking it, just like the queen that became a crone, because she was a bad person. I think that the cauldron recognized her as fae, and even though she was glamoured as human, and took a power from her as like a punishment, and it ended up giving that seer power to Elaine when she was dunked in the cauldron. So her actually being Tamlin's mate, and it explains Tamlin going to those lengths to help her get away with Feyre, because he would still remember what she looked like, glamoured from when they parted. And I think the reason that she chose the human name Briar is because she loved and missed Tamlin, and knowing that it means literally thorny rosebush, it would remind her of her lover's court and the man who helped her escape death, or the male that helped her escape death, her mate, while she was in the mortal lands. Kind of like a piece of him with her every time someone there called her name. It's totally plausible. In my mind, it's totally plausible. But again, you have to admit it's weird that legit nobody knows what happened when Rhys's family supposedly died. Not even us as readers. Like, we only have Rhys's best guess. I also think Rhys's father, if the heads of his wife and daughter were glamoured, I think Rhys's father could have either known or not known. But even if he did know that it wasn't actually them, he could have gone for revenge on Tamlin's family anyway because he despised them, they were enemies, and that would have given him an opening to kill them by playing ignorant, like not knowing they were glamoured. Even if it was a weak glamour, because Tamlin was like a young fae back then, so he probably wouldn't have been as powerful as his father. So his glamours probably wouldn't have been as powerful as like his father or Rhys's father. But I believe he would have used that to get revenge on Tamlin's family, to kill them. And he was basically playing the game, which is funny because it's like father, like son. Rhys claimed he was playing the game with Amarantha. But you know. I think that Tamlin is letting his lover / Briar stay in the winter court because he knows that the spring court is in shambles and that she would be like really disappointed in him for, you know, letting everything get to him so easily and being like emotionally weak, even though she loves him, and I don't think she would really care. I think he's more disappointed in himself, but he's glad that she's in another court so she doesn't have to see him like that, even though he helped rescue her, and he's just glad that she's actually okay and back in Prythian. But also, he knows that like when the time is right, she'll reveal who she really is. And when she does reveal herself, and all the information that she collected from the human realm about the queens, and I think she can help them win the war with the queens in Koshi, because she'd have all that inside information when she was posing as a human, as well as the information that she had before she left for the human lands about that archway and the Illyrian mountains that leads to the Crescent City world. So I believe that her arc would segue into the crossover, because that would have been the perfect cover if she was a fae who glamoured herself to look mortal, went to the mortal lands, accidentally got stuck there when the wall was put up. Everything that she would do, just like kind of Rhys, would be for the good of Prythian. So if she could collect information on people she thinks is connected to Prythian, I believe she probably would. So I think she'd have inside info on those queens. And that would segue into the crossover of Crescent City because of the archway at Ramiel as well. Like I said, I do hold firm to the belief that Rhys's sister and Briar, which I'm now kind of thinking are the same person, is definitely Tamlin's mate. And that's exactly how she got into the whole mess to begin with, because of the feud with their courts and the hatred between their fathers and the risk of both of their fathers wanting each other dead, and Tamlin's father finding out that he was the lover of the Night Court's daughter. And you have to remember, Tamlin's father is said by Rhys to be worse than Baron. So Tamlin knew how sadistic his father was, and there would be no doubt in his mind that his father would go after his mate, his lover, to kill her. And that's why I think this whole plan, he planned this whole thing to send her to the mortal realm to save her for the time being, and then she just got trapped there when the wall went up, and came back as Briar, her glamour, when Hybern took all of them. Let's see, what else? Yeah, as I said, I think at the time she thought it would only be until their fathers died, which, for a fae, that isn't a long time. For, like, a human, it would be a long time. It would be, like, decades, you know. But for a fae, that's not really a long time. And I fully believe that she intended to come back once her father and Tamlin's father were gone. And she just simply couldn't because of the wall and the treaty. And then also Amarantha happened, and Amarantha forced Tamlin to find Feyre, a human with hate in their heart, to kill, the whole curse. And when he went to the Mortal Lands to collect Feyre, I honestly believe that he wanted to look for Briar / Nova, but he instead had to focus on Feyre because of the curse. I'm thinking because, his mate, his lover, would have wanted him to focus on saving his court and saving Prythian, because that's what she was all about. But, SJM would completely win me over with this twist, and I think it's actually really possible, and it makes a lot of sense if you think about it. I know I'm not the best at verbalizing everything, so I'm sorry, but, yeah, I think that Rhys's sister is Briar, and that she is Tamlin's mate, and that she glamoured herself to look like a human, went to the Mortal Lands. I think Tamlin convinced her to go to the Mortal Lands to save her from death by his father. Glamoured 2 random Illyrian brutes to look like her and her mother, and then they were killed. Their heads were sent to Rhys's family, still glamoured. He used that to kill Tamlin's family in revenge. Whether he knew or not that the glamour was there, who knows. But Tamlin's father ended up dying. Rhys's father ended up dying, luckily, when he tried to kill Tamlin. And I just think this would make a lot of sense. I think if SJM really thought of this twist, and I'm not just overthinking everything, I would literally bow to her feet, because I want this twist so badly now. I just want it so bad. I just want it so bad. But yeah, that's my huge long theory about Briar being Nova, and her being Tamlin's mate, and the secret still not being revealed yet. So I'm hoping for a book with Tamlin and Briar / Nova, and I want this secret to come out